Does it feel like every business around you is somehow switching to a subscription model except for us pet photographers? All our software, education, even our dog's own food can be purchased on subscription. How would you like to jump on board this trend and improve your cash flow as well? Today's guest took inspiration from another photographer to launch an offering to do just that with a monthly print club. Tune in to hear all about it. And in the extended member only episode, you'll hear all the details around pricing and workload to do with this monthly print club, plus bonus conversation around the turning point for Cassie's business, which is sure to encourage those of you who are in the early stage of your business.
Welcome to the Pet Photographers Club. Tune in as experts share their insights to help grow your business with higher sales, creative marketing, and kick-ass business strategies. Now on to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Pet Photographers Club. I'm Kirsty McConnell and today I'm chatting to Cassie of Wet Nose Images. Welcome to the club, Cassie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Kirsty.
So I got you on the show today to chat about this monthly print club. I originally saw it on your Instagram and was super impressed because it's not something that I've seen before. And I was really excited by what you were offering. So I reached out to you, as you know, and asked you, if I could get you on the club. And straight away you were saying, oh, but it's not my concept. And it actually came from somebody else. And then I learned about it or tweaked it further in another community. And I said, that's fine. Because, that's the case with almost, everything that we do now in terms of marketing. They're all kind of borrowed ideas that we then tweak to suit us better. So can you just give the listener a bit of an idea into what it is that you're doing and the inspiration behind it?
Sure. So I've been a dedicated pet photographer since I started my business officially, and that was in 2015. So I've been photographing mostly dogs, but also the occasional other animals since then. And yeah, I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. And yeah, you can cut that part out, the last bit, because I don't know what else.
No, that's great. That's great. So, alrighty. So since 2015, so that's quite a little while now. I bet you've seen like some pretty big changes over the years in your business.
Yeah, definitely. It's every year is kind of feels like a whole new learning opportunity, and you can implement so many tweaks and stuff from what you learned last year to make the next year even better. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, I did get you on the show because I saw, as I said before, on your Instagram, it was actually that you were doing this monthly print club. And I was like, what is this? This is a new concept I haven't seen before. Sometimes we get stuck um, in our own little like funnel of information. And it was really nice to see something fresh to me anyway. And when I reached out to you, you said like, oh, it wasn't my idea. And and actually it was in this other community, et cetera, et cetera. I said, great, let's chat about it. So can you just give like a bit of a overview to the listener? What is a monthly print club and how did it come about to be part of Wet Nose Images?
Sure. So I'll let you know where I heard of it. So it was through Julie Christie's membership, The Photographer's Voice, and she had a guest on, Jamie Webb, and he was talking about this idea that he implemented during kind of like COVID pandemic times. So basically, it's an option during your in-person sales session where the client, if say they want a whole bunch of images, but maybe they don't have the budget to pay that lump sum right now, then you can split it up, which I mean, lots of people do payment plans and things like that. But this would be a slightly different version of it. So they're not having to wait until everything's paid before they start receiving things. So that's a lot more fun for them. So basically, they'll get to choose 12 images at their like reveal and order meeting. And then each month, they're going to pay for me. Well, we can talk about the pricing later, but they'll pay a certain amount each month and it's taken out automatically so that I don't have to kind of like chase them down or anything like that. So they pay monthly and then they receive a print in the mail. So for me, it's an 8x10 mounted print. And yeah, so each month they get to have like a delivery day and they get, fun mail coming to their house, which I think we all could use more of. And it's just a fun way for them to be able to take home all the photos that they love, but also be able to break down the payment if one big payment isn't feasible for them, or if this just sounds like a fun idea.
Yeah, right. So you just mentioned, Kizzy, that they choose to do this option at the ordering appointment. So when the client actually books with you, do they know that this is an offering that you have, and do they call especially to take advantage of that? Or is it only introduced to them at the sales appointment?
So technically, yes, but I need to work on marketing this more so that everybody knows. So the information is out there. It's on my website, and it's in their like pricing PDF that they get sent once they've booked, and we're kind of working towards thinking of what they want to take home. But I do need to definitely talk about it more, so that I can get more people actually taking advantage of this. But yes, it is something that they know.
Yeah, okay, great. That makes sense. Okay, so you've got these clients who want to buy a bunch of things, but it's a bit over their budget. And then they have this option that, from what I understand, it's kind of like how in education, a lot of platforms drip content. So it's like, once you've paid this month, then you get an extra chapter in your course or something. And it's the same concept that's now being applied to photography, that, they pay their installment for the month, I suppose, and then the print comes in the mail. So that's really cool to see like industries merging, because that's not a traditional thing that we've ever done in photography as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a lot of businesses, a lot of different businesses that are using that kind of subscription model, even like BarkBox and things like that,
Mhm.
where if you're the business owner, you now have regular monthly payments coming in with not a huge amount of, well, actually very little work on your end, once the actual session is taken care of. And then you're just, for me, the 12 prints is over 12 months, by the way. So it's a year's worth of them getting fun mail and me getting small monthly payments.
I actually want to get into the ins and outs of, how much work it actually is for you. I might save that for the second half of the interview. But for now, I would love to know like how it's going with your audience. Like, so you said that you did find, or you have launched it onto your website so people can theoretically find the information. You are including it in their pricing packages, etc. Are you having conversations on the phone with your clients when they first book? Are you introducing it then?
Ideally, but again, I need to be more on the ball about this, which I think this has prompted me to do that going forward. I need to talk about it more. But yeah, so typically my process just with every client is once they reach out and they're interested in booking a session, then we have a meeting on Zoom for me. It used to be in person and then switched to Zoom and then haven't switched back yet because I don't have to leave my house. But yeah, so we have that chat and we get to see each other and get to know each other's personalities and talk all about their dogs and talk about the prints and products and everything and kind of get them thinking about what they might want once we get to the end.
Yeah, okay. Nice, nice. That totally makes sense. And how many of these have you done so far? Has it just been introduced to your audience, or have you had a few clients taking it up yet?
So I launched it, I think, like last fall, like October, November kind of thing. And I kind of, the plan was to launch it as kind of a big promotional thing and make a bunch of posts and talk about it a lot, which I think I tried to do. And I got, well, the way that I promoted it and kind of got people to engage with it for the big launch was that I was going to give away a session. So their session fee would be waived, but then they would be responsible for the monthly payments. And of course, they would know all of that upfront. But just so that I could get somebody enrolled in it and get it going and make sure that I could iron out the kinks and everything in the process and make sure that it was a cool thing and would be feasible going forward. So I had one person in the program who uh, she was the winner, and so she's been making the monthly payments and that's been going perfectly. There's been no issue with that, and each month I just take one of her prints to the post office and send it off to her. So she's still going. We're nearing the end of hers, but she still has a couple months left. And yeah, so because again, I didn't promote it as much as I should have, then it's been slower, and people probably are not realizing that I have it. So now I'm going to turn that around and make sure that I start talking about it more and, make some blog posts and all that good stuff and actually do my marketing like I'm supposed to.
Oh, it's always the way, isn't it? How many of us have these great grand plans, yes, I'm going to do this and that on this date and that date, and then life happens and somehow we don't implement it as we saw was going to happen. But
Yeah. There's like the disconnect because I know all about it and I'm like, this is such a great idea. Everybody's going to love it. But if they only see one post about it because the others just didn't make it into their feed because of the algorithm, even though I posted a ton, then, they saw it one day and then forgot about it. And that's just how it goes. But in my mind, I'm like, this is so great. I feel like everybody must have the same information that I do. And that's not how it works. You got to keep going.
that's a really good point. I mean, most of us, we're so involved in our own business that we do know it in and out. And it is important to remember, like you're saying, that just because we know it in and out and we feel like we're talking about it all the time, it doesn't actually represent that that's how the audience are as well. They don't, they're not living and breathing it either. I remember,
Exactly.
yeah, I remember I second shot for a wedding photographer for a little bit, and I remember her saying, like, "How come my clients aren't getting back to me?" She was getting quite upset about it, and I was like, "Because they're 100% thinking about their wedding right now, which is all the vendors, and you're 100% thinking about money coming in and your business, but those two things don't overlap perfectly." So she, like, the client,
Yep.
her wedding client is busy booking all the other vendors, and she'll come back and, they always booked and everything, but it just bothered her, the delay. I said, "You just sent an email 2
Yeah.
days ago, like, calm down." Anyway, it's important to remember that because, it's easy for me to point out to her because I was from the outside looking in, but when it's us on the inside, sometimes it's a bit harder to remember that, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
So what I want to do, I want to kind of understand the pricing around this and the workload a little bit more, but I want to save that for the second half of this interview, which we're going to get into in a second. That's only for members, as most of you know. But before we do that, I did want to talk about just briefly your experience with being in another community of photographers that aren't necessarily pet photographers, because you mentioned earlier that you're part of Julie Christie's membership and that this concept came from another member of that community. So what kind of, I don't know, what kind of things do you feel that, you might miss if you were only just deep involved in the pet photography world? Because that's exactly what we were just talking about. Like when you're just insular and you don't realize, what else is out there, you kind of miss out a little bit. So yeah, how's that going, being part of another community outside of pet photography?
It's really interesting. So I've been part of a few over the years and, at one point I was part of several and then realized that okay, this is a lot of money and some of them I'm not really taking advantage of or some of them haven't been, um what's the return on investment has not been what I was hoping it would be for some of them and just, I kind of dropped off. So yeah, I've dropped a few of them since then, but Pet Photographers Club and Julie Christie's, she rebranded. So now it's called The Photographer's Voice, which I think is cool. So she's really focusing on how to build a business that has your voice. So it's very specific about, putting your personality into everything and not just being like cookie cutter or not being like overly professional, which is definitely something that I have to remind myself of because you feel like you want to write things in a way that is very professional and businessy, but that actually doesn't come across very well for clients, and especially like for yourself or for myself when I'm thinking about brands or other photographers that I really enjoy following and seeing pop up or reading what they have to write. It's people who are not sounding super businessy and they just are speaking like themselves and they're speaking in a really fun way and a really engaging way. Anyway, off on a tangent, but I really like that. And that's something that I'm trying and always striving to incorporate more in my business. But
No, it
yeah,
wasn't a
so
tangent. That
I,
was that was great. No, I think this is really great to see people stepping outside of, pet photography, because, this concept that you're implementing at the moment, the monthly print club, like you probably wouldn't have even had that on your radar at all if you were, just stuck within only absorbing information from other pet photographers, because at least I don't know anybody else that's been doing it. Might be wrong, but it's probably just an example, anyway. Anyway, for the listener, if you aren't familiar with Julie, and I didn't know she'd rebranded actually, Cassie, so thanks for pointing that out. But yeah, if
Very,
you're
very
not
recently.
okay, that will be why then. If you're not familiar with Julie, I will put a link to her rebranded site, I imagine, in the show notes, and also a link to an episode that we had, because we had Julie on the show a season ago or so. And so I'll pop a link to that in the show notes too. So if you do want to hear more about her and what she offers, then you can check that out. But for now, we're going to wrap up part 1. So can you just let the listener know, Cassie, where they can find you and your photography?
Sure. So Instagram, I think, is my most interacted with platform. And so my handle is at Wet Nose Images Halifax. And then on Facebook, it's, I think, the same ending, but just on Facebook. So Wet Nose Images Halifax after the slash. Yeah, I think those are my main platforms. I have a TikTok. It's very small, but it's also, I think it's Wet Nose Images Halifax, but my logo will be on there. I should have checked that, but yeah.
That's okay. That's perfect. So everybody can head over there to check out your work. And yeah, if you missed anything from today's episode, of course, like I said before, you can check the show notes and just search Cassie in the website or on your favorite podcast listener. If you are a member of the club, you can continue listening to part 2 of this episode in the member zone or with your private RSS link. Don't forget that if you're not a member, you can always join us. It's just $10 a month, and membership includes tons of perks and bonus content. So just head over to thepetphotographersclub.com to find out more.
Thanks for listening to the Pet Photographers Club. To subscribe to the podcast, check out other episodes, and keep up to date, head to thepetphotographersclub.com.